My name is Sharon Dowell, and I'm an artist that lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was really happy to be a McColl Center resident several years ago, and really happy to be back to share with you today a little how-to. Today we're going to make cacti collages, so I'm going to show you step-by-step how you can do that. And anybody can do it. All levels are welcome. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so I've got my work table in front of me and all the supplies that I'm gonna need for the cacti collage. I've got this little, what looks like a sheet of paper is really just a palette for mixing paint. If you have like a paper plate, that works just as well for mixing your paint. I've got a piece of cardboard, some scissors, a couple of paint brushes, a spoon, and I have two pieces of paper, and this is a nice wet media paper, so it can take everything from watercolor, pen and ink, acrylic paint, anything wet, it'll take it. It's a nice kind of a thick paper. I've got some craft paints. Does not have to be fancy, but you could use nicer acrylic paint if you want. I would suggest acrylic paint is best for this. You could use watercolor as well. And just a cup for water for cleaning my brushes. So I'm gonna put some of these things aside so that I have a little bit more room. And I'm gonna go ahead and put some paint on my palette. I really like the idea of having a limited color palette, which just means having a few different colors. I don't have yellow or red or purple, and that's okay. I like that I have just a few to choose from. Sometimes we artists like to get stuck on our kind of go-to color palettes, and it's nice to push yourself a little bit and try things you wouldn't normally. So I'm gonna put one of these sheets to the side, and I'm just gonna have fun. I'm just gonna be experimental with this. I don't really have any, clear idea in mind of what I'm painting. But what I'm gonna do is I put a little dab of water on my paintbrush, not very much, but just a little bit. And I'm gonna grab some colors. I'm just kind of throwing this blue and white together. I'm not even fully mixing it in. And I'm just going to town with making a shape. And while it's still wet, I'll dig in. I'm using the back of my paintbrush. It's kind of a quick and easy thing to use. You could use a toothbrush, or not toothbrush. You could use a toothpick. I mean, you could use a toothbrush, that's fine too. But you could use a toothpick, a knife, a spoon, a spatula, anything, really. Anything can become a mark-making tool. And that's the nice thing about art, is that you can make art from anything. I was telling some folks in my class yesterday, I mean, you could even go dumpster diving and find something to paint on or collage into a piece. You don't have to always rely on fancy materials and tools from the art store, although it is really, really nice to invest in those things. Maybe I'll do a little bit more of this blue up here. Again, you don't have to copy exactly what I'm doing. I'm just really just doodling, kind of thinking of an aerial view of a city, almost like these could be rooftops and streets. Little lines. I like to do that a lot in my own body of work. And maybe I will try the spoon and scratch it across, see what that does. That's neat. Makes a nice texture. But you do want to scratch into the paint while it's still wet. So that's why I'm kind of putting some paint down, scratching, then putting paint down again, scratching. Oh, see, it's already drying right there, but that's okay. I don't mind. It's just about having fun. Maybe I'll try a different brush and a different color. And I'm just gonna fill in maybe some orange and pink together. What happens? Maybe throw some white in there. See what happens when you dab the brush. This is a round brush. And so that makes a totally different texture than the other flat brush that I was using. And again, while it's still wet, back to the screen, we'll do something interesting. Scrape, scrape, scrape. If maybe you make a mark that you don't like, the great thing is you can just paint right over it. If it's still wet, you have a little bit of time. Maybe I'll try the edge of this cardboard. I think I'm gonna cut this down, or tear this down actually. Scratch it across a little bit. Oh, I really like what that's doing. I'm gonna hold it up a little closer so you can see the texture a little bit more. I really like that. So yeah, maybe I'll just use the excess that was already on here from scratching. Fill in down here. Like that. Again, I'm just kind of painting quickly, filling in. How about some pink down in here? I like not mixing the colors in fully together before throwing it on there. Because again, I don't really know what's going to happen. And I just think it's a great thing to kind of let things flow and experiment. I'm going to switch back to the flat brush, and I didn't mention a paper towel. That's always handy to have one, obviously, for cleaning your brush in between painting. And with acrylics, they dry super fast, so you do want to make sure that you're not leaving the brush out too long, that you're cleaning it off in the water. I think I'm gonna throw in some of this nice light blue and some white. That's nice and gushy. I like how it's mixing with this dark blue a little bit that's still wet. I actually might dab it with this paper towel. Dry it off just a bit. Ooh, look at that, that's a nice surprise. There's a little bit of orange still left on the spoon. I like how it's kind of coming off. That's a little bit of interest. Maybe I'm gonna use my finger. Why not? Go back to kindergarten age. Like need a little bit of pink in there somewhere, so. All right. So next you're just gonna wait for this to dry. The most fun thing, waiting for paint to dry, right? You can dab it a little bit in certain areas if you want it to dry faster. I also kind of like what that's doing as far as making interesting texture with the paper towel. So yeah, so I'm just gonna let that dry. Okay, y'all, so my painting is dry enough that I can start sketching out my cacti. I have a pencil here, which I did not mention, but hopefully you've got a pencil around your house. So I'm gonna just think about, I've got another sheet of paper, which I'll bring over here next to it, same size. So what I'm gonna do is just cut out some leaves from the painting that I've done. Yes, I'm actually gonna go and cut out something that I've just spent a nice amount of time on. It's a really freeing feeling, actually. So I'm gonna cut out those leaves and then collage them onto this blank sheet of paper. So I'm thinking about, okay, I want this to be a cacti in a pot. So I'm thinking my pot is gonna be maybe like a nice, you know, kind of a bowlish, fat pot. I like that shape. And that's just there to give me an idea of how big I want my leaves to be. So I'm gonna put that to the side for the moment. And I'm going to just sketch some leaves, kind of like upside down teardrops or right side up teardrops, doesn't really matter. And I'm just kind of filling up the page with them. I'm going to think about leaving some room for some strips of paper because I want to have a stem for my cacti as well. So I think over here, I will leave some room for that. I'll just cut that freehand. But for now, I'll just keep drawing in some of these rounded teardrops. And I'm making them all different sizes. Got some that are a little bit larger, all different shapes. They don't have to be perfect and all the same. I think it's a little bit boring if it's too much the same. So got my teardrop leaves. I'm gonna go ahead and just cut a long strip. Again, it does not have to be a perfectly straight thing because things in nature aren't always perfectly shaped. And then I'm gonna just cut out these teardrops and stay on the inside so that you don't see the pencil line. They're just there as a guide. The other day I was reading about the term collage and discovered that Pablo Picasso and George Braque actually termed that phrase collage coined the term collage, which I didn't realize it was actually them. I knew they were part of that important movement of collage in the early 1900s. And I found that interesting. They were really just trying to push the idea of painting and the picture plane and making things 3D rather than always on 2D on a flat surface. So we have them to thank for the collage movement. And really, anything can be collage. I mean, they were throwing in newspapers and magazines and ropes and cardboard. You know, just go to your local dumpster and find some trash and make some art out of it. Nice thing about collage is it's very forgiving. You can move things around over and over and over before you decide to make the commitment and glue it in place. And you can make 1,000 of these teardrops before I decided which ones I want to use. I mean, that's really pretty just in itself right there, but I'm going to toss that aside and bring the sheet of paper back over that has my pot on it. There we go. So I cut out the stem, and it's huge. It's way longer than I need, but I like to give myself a little bit of room to play with the idea of the stem. So if I cover it up, I can see, okay, because I'm going to cut it off where the pot ends, right? So I can kind of get an idea of what that's going to look like. And I think I like this chunk of it, so I'm just going to cut right there, and cut it here, and that'll be my stem. And then I'm gonna just attach some leaves. See what strikes me. Maybe I like some more than others. Maybe I want to try this one over here. Maybe they'll overlap a little bit. I think that gives a little bit of interest. And I still have 2 left over, so I don't know, do I want one up here? Move them down a little. Something about like that. Got this lone, I mean, I could have one down here, maybe like it just fell off, poor thing. Well, for now, I kind of like that, so I'm just gonna get to gluing it. Ooh, glue stick. Another surprise supply I forgot to mention. Glue stick. Any old kind of glue is great. Elmer's glue, rubber cement. But glue sticks always do the job. There we go. Got the stem in place. And then I'm just going to start gluing these on one by one. Wow. I'm actually going to see if I can move the stem over a little bit. Sometimes glue can be forgiving. It's the other good thing about collage. Sometimes you have a little time to make changes. As I was realizing that leaf is not quite fitting on the page, so I just moved the stem over. There we go. Maybe this leaf will come down. Sometimes if you're using a nice thick paper, it may take a little bit more time to dry and adhere to the page. You might have to press a little bit longer. This one I'm going to overlap. I think that'll just give it a little bit more interest. I like when things aren't perfectly symmetrical. I think I might add one more leaf up here just to cover up the stem. And I've got this leaf left, so I'm just going to cut it a little bit smaller. A little more glue. I think I might cut it even smaller than that. Just because I want to keep it on the page. Cute little leaf. I also think it's fun to use colors that you wouldn't normally see on a cactus. It's just fun and funky. And then I liked that idea that I had of maybe a leaf that has fallen down on the table. So I'm gonna cut a teeny little leaf out of the scrap that I have left. It's fun to have a template or, step-by-step idea of what you want to do, but then allow yourself to kind of get creative as you're going and say, let me try this. See what happens. And so with the pot remaining, you could come back in with more paint. If you have markers or colored pencils or something else, you could also play with that and add a different type of media to your piece. For me, I'm gonna stick with the paint. And why not use this green that I haven't used yet? Maybe a little bit of white too. I just like kind of mixing things a little bit. Maybe I'll make this pot a striped pot with green in the middle. Be careful right there on the edge of that leaf. And maybe I'll switch to a different color for the rest of the pot. More of that hot pink. That's a fun color. Put more of that on my palette.
so much you could do to make this your own. You could find some magazines or newspapers, collage those in. Too much paint on my brush. I had to dab that off a little bit. I mean, the possibilities are endless with collage. That's the fun thing about it. So many scrap papers out there too that you could find to play with. But I think it's really fun to just make your own kind of patterns and texture, like we did here, and then cut it out. It's very, very unique. So paint down on the bottom. All right, y'all, there you have it. A quick little cacti collage. So if you want to find out more about my work, you can see my work at sharondowell.com, or I've got an Instagram, which I just pulled up and I'm just sharing that. It's Sharon_Dowell, and you can see what I'm up to, my latest murals or paintings or shows that I'm curating. I try to be really active in the Charlotte art scene. It's a wonderful community here. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful day.